Yo, 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 and welcome to Across the Hobby. I'm your host, Adam Gray, and this is December 22nd, which means this is going to be a quick show today. But guys, we have an absolutely huge, crazy, insane number of significant auctions that just ended. And we have a few really important auctions to cover here, even this week, the week of Christmas. So I really want to take you through some of the biggest sales first. And I think that's probably the thing that is going to be, what you're going to want to hear the most about this week. But like I say, there's a few auctions that I think you guys have to keep an eye on. So let's take a look at that. Before I say anything else, though, I've been thinking that I should give a caveat at the beginning of this episode. I'm not going to do this every time, but I want to give this caveat because there's sort of a problem that I have to deal with. One of the things I have to deal with is in talking about auctions like this, just on the heels of them having ended, is sort of, I can either talk about the things that just ended and talk about the learnings from that while it's still fresh in our minds, or I can wait till we know whether they were paid for. And it's kind of a hard thing because in a lot of ways, I don't want to talk about things until we know that they're going to get paid for. At the same time, we know that 90-something% of these auctions do get paid for. So just the caveat, remember, these are thinly traded assets. To know exactly what something is worth in this space is very different than to know like what an individual stock or bond is worth. And it's important to remember that some number of these things won't even be paid for. I generally don't know. I also point out that there's a couple of places that do auctions that Card Ladder has viewed as maybe most likely to go unpaid. And so they require payment verification to be able to put it onto their site. And two of those that come to mind are Alt and Card Hobby. And so whenever we cover those, remember that for whatever reason, Card Ladders deem those to be the ones that they really need to start sort of like with okay, let's filter out the ones that are definitely bad. I don't want to put words in Card Ladder's mouth, by the way. I don't know exactly how they do that, but it seems to me that those are two that they felt like a higher risk of things not being paid for. But I don't know that, and I don't know about the percentages. I do know that PWCC, when I was there, actually published the rate that they had, and it was on their site. It was sort of hard to get to, but there was a way you could actually see what percentage of items were paid for during a current month or during a specific month. And the months that I was there, it was like 94, 97, like pretty high percentage numbers as far as like what was getting paid for. With that said, every auction house, we would like to see it 100%. And every eBay item would like to see it 100%. But always remember that there's weirdness that happens. Okay, so there's my 2-minute caveat. So let's start by talking, guys, about some of the biggest auctions that ended last week. Now, what you have to know is in the history of the hobby, I believe this is the first time we have ever had a week where we have two different modern cards that both sold over $2 million. And we're going to start out by talking about one of them right here. This first auction that we're going to look at, I talked about an awful lot in preparation for it, and that was, I'm gonna highlight over it right here. That was the 2003 dual logoman of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. I'm going to take just a minute to talk about that, and we're going to also take a minute to talk about over here at Premiere, the Ohtani. This is, again, if you're only going to watch a couple minutes, this is probably the thing that you're going to be most interested to see. Although I've never really known what it is that you guys are most interested in. What I know is when I've met with people who watch the show, there's like different aspects that people like to watch. But the biggest stories like this typically come first. So Thursday night, Jeremy Lee and I were on his Sports Card Live channel with probably many of you watching the Fanatics premiere end. At the beginning of the night, this was at over $1 million. I think it was $1.2 million. And it ended pre-BP going for $2.5 million, post-BP going for $3 million. And then the very next day, not to be outdone, Heritage comes along and sells this unbelievable dual logoman of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant for almost $2 million. So these two sales happened within 24 hours of each other. There is a natural tendency when we see giant numbers to get so excited. And I think that that's good and that makes sense. I do want to remind everyone that these are not two cards that sort of are like a pretty good or pretty great cards. These are two of the all-time great cards that sold within 24 hours of each other. For Shohei Ohtani, given that this year was the first year that they did the gold logoman for the prior MVP, prior year Cy Young winner, prior year Rookie of the Year players, this is the first time that we've gotten a gold logoman / autograph of Shohei. So was this auction a big deal? This auction was an absolutely huge deal. I did receive information from somebody about this card and some of the bidding that happened on it. And it seems like this card had exactly the sort of buyer that you'd want. When I say received information, I didn't receive very much, but I sort of sent over a message just saying, somebody at Fanatics saying, does this look legit? And the response was like, this is exactly what we wanted to see. This looks absolutely legit. So I'm going to take out, just be totally transparent. That's basically all I know. I don't know who the buyer is. There's lots of things I don't know about it, but $3 million for Shohei Ohtani. If you look at the most expensive Shohei Ohtani cards ever, sorry, I should have pulled up Card Ladder in preparation for this. I did not. If you look at the most expensive Shohei Ohtani cards ever, there's one other card that immediately should come to your mind, and that was one by a friend of the show. That was one by Spinatron, and that was one from Heritage Auctions, 6 months ago, something like that. You're going to see it here in just a second. It's another logoman autograph. This one's gold. This one's horizontal. This one's out of Dynasty. The autograph's gold, I should say. So compare the two. Two logoman cards, both autographed, one in gold, one in blue, one vertical, one horizontal. This one vertical, this one horizontal. This one vertical, this one horizontal. This one was from his 50-50 pants, and this one is from this is one that's from his most recent season, right? And the season that just ended. And so you would ask, like, okay, which of these two cards do we like better? Aesthetically, I like this one better, the one that just sold. I do like the horizontal. I think there's something to be said for that. I think the image of Shohei is really cool. I like the autograph better on the gold one, but I would guess I'm in the minority on that. What I know, though, is that the world changed in the last 9 months. This is a really good sell for our friend Spinatron, because this card right here, I think there's at least a case that's a better card, especially because of the uniform that it came from. If Spinatron put his hand in the air and said, guys, I still think my card's a better card, I don't think that would be crazy. It is not shocking to see these as the two highest Shohei cards in existence. And take note, neither of them are from his rookie year. Let's reminder, a lot of people are always like, it's not even a rookie card. There's a lot of times where a player's best card is not from their rookie year. So very interesting. And then the other card that sold, obviously, was this one. And it's the dual logoman of these two. Now, I have lots of thoughts here. I was really interested to see what it sold for. So what it would sell for. It sold for $10 million less than the dual logoman autograph did. That was won by the Wondershine Index. Before that was formally known to exist, this card, the autographed one from 2007, was one, and it was one for, I think, 13 point something million dollars. And one of the questions that I asked leading up to this was, how are people going to see this card compared to that one? And I generally didn't know how people would see it, but my take on it, and it's just like super clear, right? My take on it is that this set right here, that this individual card right here, amongst collectors who've been around a long time, this card was generally better known because this was the moment that Exquisite showed up on the scene. They only had 3 dual logoman cards in the set. This was the only one with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And then a few years later, we get the other one that was autographed that sold for $13.2 million. This one, and I thought it's pretty common knowledge, Michael Jordan is this is a logoman from his Wizards uniform. You can actually, I think some people maybe didn't realize this. So I had people messaging me, oh, I bet you didn't know it's from a Wizards jersey. And it's like, Guys, it says it on the back of the card in like bright, big black letters. Jersey worn by Michael Jordan as a member of the Washington Wizards. People forget context sometimes. Michael Jordan, when this set was made, had just been a member just the prior year of the Washington Wizards. Is it even a little surprising that he was with the Wizards when this card was made? No, not even a little bit. It just doesn't matter. Like, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It obviously matters, but it's like not even a little bit surprising. Kobe's logoman on the card is not perfectly centered, but I personally don't care. I think it looks great. I think having the Laker gold on the mesh is great. And again, it's from those first 3 duels ever. The story about where it came from, what the world was like when it came out, the fact that Jordan had just really officially retired, that Kobe was in the middle of winning these championships, all of those things to me, like I genuinely love this card a lot. I'm shocked that Nat let it go. It's obviously public knowledge that this card was Nat Turner's. That was an especially unique thing for me to try to deal with as far as it being sold by Heritage, because I was asked to do several reels for Heritage. I knew whose card it was, but I didn't want to really talk about that openly. And so, not that even Nat sent it to Heritage. There's a chance. I know the details there, but I'm not going to go into them. But, whenever a card sells, it's not fair to be like, it's this person's card unless that person puts their hand in the air and says, this is my card. It's also like a lot of people would say, why would a person sell that card? Why would somebody like Nat sell that card? And that's really an interesting thing to think of too. But I think speculating about things like that in this sort of form is not what I want to do. I don't want to do that. I have some thoughts about it though. I do. And I'm not going to speculate. But in any case, I love this card so much, and I think a lot of people message me saying, what do you think this will go for? And I'm not surprised that it sold for $3.2 million. I don't think that was a bad result. Their Heritage's estimate was 3, and I thought that it had a chance to go significantly higher, but I thought it had a chance to go lower too. The fact that it doesn't have signatures really matters, and so it's funny because it's got this great story. But then you compare it to the one with the autographs, and you're like, well, the one with the autographs is a better looking card. The one with the autographs was held by both guys. That is a great story. It is a Bulls logoman on that one. And so I can see how people would look at these two and say, this one isn't even in the same league as that one. But suffice it to say, there are only 2 dual logomans of this pairing in existence, and those are the 2. That is all. So $3.2 million on this one. Huge sale. Not even a little bit surprising for me. I'm going to go back and we're going to look at Heritage for a second. There's a few other things that I just really want to focus on. I think are really interesting. So one of the questions that I asked was, what's going to do better, this PSA 8 mantle or this PSA 1.5 mantle with the super old mantle autograph from a well-known collection of period autographs? The story here isn't that the autograph is there. The story is that when the autograph was signed. So if you go back and you look at this card and you say, how does this compare to other autographs of Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps card, you're going to see that this sold especially well. In fact, let's just do that real quick. Searching autographs is a little bit hard in not only in card letter, but anywhere, because you don't know whether you should type in like auto or PSA DNA, because Golden doesn't use the term auto. And a lot of places don't use the term PSA DNA. But if we just come in here and we click price, you're going to see there was this 5.5, which is the highest graded example, sold for $1 million in August. And this is the second highest price ever. Sold for a heck of a lot more than this beautiful 3 with a 10 autograph sold just almost exactly a year before that. I think if you were to ask most people which of these 2 cards you'd want, and you didn't tell them the story, basically, every single person would choose this mantle. This mantle, let me click on it so you can see it. This mantle has the iconic signature, the mantle signature that we all know and love. The card is graded higher. The grade of the autograph is better. The card presents better. Everything is better about this card, except this one is older. And the fact that when I say older, the signature was older. And the fact that the signature being older was really the talking point here to me is really interesting, because I've long felt that a real differentiator, a real like variable in the signature that is going to matter most to collectors as the years pass is when it was signed. If we assume that the autographs, in-person autographs matter on iconic cards, and it's clear at this point that they do, then the question becomes, what are the attributes that matter most after that? Some people will say, and we're going to get into this in a little bit on Fanatics, some people will say, well, the way that the autograph looks is most important. These two sales are not perfect corollaries because this one is from a year before this one, and the market has changed. So we can't just look at them and say, well, look, this is clear evidence. But I will say, I think if we were to see them sell together right now, I think that they'd be pretty close. I don't know that this card is clearly better than this one is. Maybe other people are going to say, Adam, you're up in the night. This one is clearly better than this one is. But I think it's at least debatable. And I think it's because, look, it's not just about how the card looks. It's also about when that autograph was signed. So that's, I think, a big learning from this week is that it does matter when an autograph is signed. And there's lots of things from Heritage that sort of show that. There was a George Mikan that sold that I bid on. It's down here. We're almost there. I didn't bid on it. I shouldn't say that. I consider bidding on. And boy, there's some really interesting learnings here. Let me show you guys this. People don't realize this, but we talked about it on the Heritage Show. And if you watched, you saw, it turns out that we didn't have we didn't have a Mikan autograph 48 sell for about 3 years. We had 3 sell in the period of a month, less than a month. We had one sell on November 22nd in an authentic holder, PSA, or with a 9 autograph. Sold for $36,000. Next one sold for $32,400. A week later, same grade. And then the next one, which is the one that was at Heritage, sold for over 5 times that. When you look at the pop reports, you see that a 2 is actually pretty great. There's only 2 graded higher. And but having said that, there's only 9 in existence. A third of the Mikan 48 Bowman sold within a month of each other. And you can see that the high grade one sold for so much more. I ended up talking to the buyer of this card, and he was really clear. It's like, I wanted to keep the sets together. He bought the whole 48 Bowman set, and a lot of that stuff from the 48 Bowman set were cards that you don't even recognize. Sold for a lot of money, guys. He wanted to keep those all together. He wanted this Mikan to stay with them. And for him, it was really important that he was willing to spend a lot more, at least from what I can gather, because this card was able to receive a numeric grade. Both of these are believed to be trimmed. With being clear, I was a buyer, I would have been after one of these. I think these are fantastic cards. But his case was like, this is just a far better card, far better eye appeal, and he was willing to pay 5 times as much, which I think is really an astounding thing, and a reminder that close to the best is not always the same as the best of the best. All right, let's get out of that one, and let's come back here. I'm going to take just one more minute on Heritage. There were a few other massive sales, obviously. We can't go through all of them. We talked about the Mike Schmidt rookie in a PSA 10, so rare. Pop 5 sold for $353,000, 53 grand more than anticipated. The Michael Jordan debut ticket, a beloved ticket in ticket collecting, $341,000. Every time a Jeter 10 sells, it's a big deal, $280,000. This Jackie was obviously really interesting, 207. I bid on this one, actually. I think I bid 120. It sold for 201. Very rare card. Another hard card to find on Card Ladder. I seem to remember that a couple of other sales happened that I don't see on Card Ladder, which either means that those sales ended up being canceled, or I just couldn't figure out how to find them. And the reason I can't figure out how to find them is it's like such a weird set. You type in 96, do you type in Reflections, do you type in US, USA, Olympic? There's so many different things, but 201,000 on that. I found one more that was 210. My wife just texted me and said, I got 10 minutes. So I'm going to hurry through the rest of this episode, guys. So these are the MC sales for the last week, which includes their monthly stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to go check out. You can see the Jambalaya sold for $39,000, but then after that, you've got all of these other sales that have happened since then. MC does not have their MC Mondays ending tonight, but they do still have a whole bunch of big items that are ending, and we'll take a look at those in just a second. $15,000 on the Steph and a PSA 9. This LeBron, I've always loved this card. I owned one of these for a long time, 15,000 on that. It's one of his best looking autograph patches. A Gretzky OPG 5 autographed, $5,200. That is such a cool card. I know he's signed quite a bit of those at this point, but such a cool card. Very cool to see the Stallmeyer Franks sell for $6,600, even just hammered. We talked about that one a lot last week here on the show. And this Steph Curry was super interesting to me. I used to own this Steph Curry. It's a fun story. I owned a 10 of the 2012 silver. I bought it from my friend G, the Lucky Show. He is the kindest person in the whole hobby. And he just was like, I was like, can I buy one of these from you? I think he had like 6 of them at the time. He said, yeah, give me $300. And I was like, gee, it's worth more than that. And he's like, just send me $300, Adam. So I gave him $300 for it. I ended up trading it or selling it. The reason I sold it is because I had a chance at getting the gold. So I had the PSA 10 of this card. I sold it for $3,000. It's now worth a lot more than that. But now I wish I had that 10 back because my gold's a PSA 10. And so it would be really cool to make the whole rainbow. But what's funny is now the non-gold stuff is so expensive that I can't even do that. Think about this. If I bought the gold for $17,000 and now the silver might cost me more than that. Isn't that crazy? So that's a little bit of MC from the week. 2 big sales to highlight on hoodies, $14,000 for the Buster Posey and $5,300 for the BGS 9 Admiral. Cards for this set, a lot more money in a PSA holder. So that's worth noting there. Alt. Remember what we talked about earlier with Alt? So you can see here, payment has been initiated. The buyer has began sending the $97,200 to Slam Bam. It's an interesting sell to me because I own the same card in the same grade. Jambalaya here, same thing, $74,400. The NFL Shield of Justin Jefferson does $82,000. This triple autos, really cool, of Steph, Kobe, and KD, does $46,000. Okay, so that's it for the big auctions that ended last week. I really skipped through Fanatics quick. I just want to actually let me just highlight just a few with Fanatics real fast. This Messi right here sold for like 8 times what it sold for back in 2022. So staggering sale right there. But 2014 gold prism stuff is basically impossible to get at this point. So this is like the second year. But a second year Messi worth a lot more than a second year LeBron. So we'll see later in this. So that's really interesting. And part of that is that he just has a lot fewer prism gold cards. Right? They only made a couple those first few years. And then one of the cards that I was most interested to see what would happen with the Michael Jordan 05 Exquisite Rainbow. This is the only one-of-one parallel from the base set from this year. And to see it sell for less than so many of these other cards sell for is just a shocking thing to me because Exquisite's really thought of as like the brand of the era. 05 Exquisite Base was thought of as the most, like the best looking, and Jordan was thought of as the best player from it. And the other best player from it's Kobe. And guys, guess what? Kobe still sold for 125. I was the underbidder here, and I was going to place a bid on this, but then this one went too high. I still think I think the prices that were paid on these were really, like, compared to some things, guys, I just think that's a great price. Whoever bought this for 210 and 125, I just think you did really well. We talked a lot about this Larry Bird. I made the case. I think that it's pretty unquestionably his best playing days card. Jeremy pushed back and he said, Adam, there's so many great Larry Birds. You can't think it's his best card just based on grading scarcity. But my case for Jeremy was that's the only thing you can do with Larry Bird's playing days cards. He doesn't have ultra rare stuff, guys. He stopped playing in the early 90s. And so he doesn't have PMGs. He doesn't have credentials. He doesn't have autograph cards from his career, except for a really mass-produced one. So $138,000 on that. Record, I believe, on this Michael Jordan, really blue matters. $90,000 on the second of the Kobe Bryant limited logos cards. I shouldn't say second. I should say one that people like, the second best. And then we talked about these. We talked about Alt. And then we need to get to the other stuff. Okay, so before I go into this week's auctions, which will go faster than I ever have before, I do want to tell you guys. So I don't think I mentioned this before, but so I have. I mean, I know I've mentioned the book before. You guys are tired of probably hearing about the book, but I wanted to show this to you guys. So I have like a whole bunch of these. These ones are still in there. They're still in their cellophane, so I can't open them up. They're still in their shrink wrap, I should say. So these, oh dear, I'm losing my mic. My mic is falling over. Knocked my mic right off my desk. Is it still on? It's still on. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of these. When I didn't realize this, but when the printer was charging me, they basically rounded up to the next amount that was going to give me the best price. So there's this strange thing where you can order like X number of books and it'll cost, $20. But if you get to this other amount, you can get them for $17, and it actually makes it cheaper to order more. So literally in all, you get more books for less money. That's what happened. I still have a lot of books left. So I would love if you have any interest in, if you own a shop and you want to order, I'm not going to send them out one at a time. My house is not going to be a fulfillment center, but if you want to order, say like 10 books, 10 books at a time, I will make you guys a sweet deal on them. So DM me, send me a message here or on Instagram, and I will 100% get those over to you. Okay. The other thing I want to say is I just finished my card countdown on my Instagram. The winner is pretty much all of you expected, was the Kobe Logo Mania from 2002. That was the first set ever that produced logoman autographs. I'm super grateful to own that. That was number one. Number two was the 2012 Gold Prism Kobe. And then number three was the 2012 Gold Prism Steph Curry. Go check that out on my Instagram if you haven't already seen them. But I did write-ups on all those. And I know that some of that stuff's annoying and you don't care, but some of you really like that stuff. I've had a lot of people actually, for, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, like 5 or 10 people have asked me, hey, will you do the same sort of review you do of your cards, but do them in longer format on YouTube? I don't think I'll do that, but I've had enough people ask me for it that I've actually considered it. Okay, with that said, let's talk about each of these auctions briefly, like super briefly. So the Fanatics Collect Weekly auction ends Sunday, like always. I am an idiot and included this Kobe on the cards that were ending last week on my little survey that I do on my Instagram. I love this card, and I want to talk to you about why I love this card so much. So that's going to be the one card we're going to highlight there. You'll notice at MC they have the Jokic Gala at auction, which is shocking. It doesn't end for over a week. Mine was a BGS 9, but I crossed it to a PSA 8. So this one's graded higher now than mine is. Yeah, I love that card so much. Let's get out of MC because they don't have their weekly auction up this week. You can see Hoodies has this massive Celebrini. I think I'm saying his name right. Numbered out of 99 of the cup. And then a whole bunch of really nice Shoheis that are also at the top. And then we have Golden and Card Hobby. Card Hobby, I'm going to hit shot by category, hit all, and hit, usually there's an auction button. Hit auctions, and then price. We're going to look at one item from each of these auctions. Just one. Okay. Let's look at, here's a really good one. Wow, that's really cool to see that. Okay. We're going to do this Kobe. We're going to look at this Kobe. We're going to look at this Kobe. And then at Golden, these are all the big items ending at Golden this week at the weekly. Should I do another Kobe just to make people mad? No, I don't want to make people mad. And we're talking about this Patrick Mahomes. Okay. These will be the 3 cards that we end with. And I'll only talk about Mahomes if Golden allows it to pop up. See, it's saying pop up blocked. Golden, sometimes the website sort of gives me a hard time. Okay, let's talk about each of these first. So I actually really like this Kobe Bryant card a lot. I don't know what it's going to sell for. I don't know what it ought to sell for, but I'll tell you a few things about it and a few reasons why I really love it. So 2012 was the first year that Flawless came out. And if you weren't collecting at the time, what you have to know is Flawless was really an interesting new thing when it came out. They came in these briefcases. There were these like promos that Panini did. Like they really tried to do something different. The base cards all had diamonds in them. There were only 2 parallels of the base cards. And then there were a few inserts that were like all autographs. This is the inscriptions insert. You would think that inscriptions were all signed with some sort of nickname. They weren't, right? This one wasn't. And I don't believe that anything from this set was signed with an inscription, which tells me that Panini didn't do a good job of letting the athletes know that that's what they expected. Maybe they didn't expect that. Maybe they just wanted them to sign their name. But this Kobe is one of many autographs from 2012 Prism. The difference between this one and some of the other sets is, I believe, I'm pretty sure about this, this is the only Kobe from the inscription set. Meaning there's not like different variations. There's a few other sets where there's like 5 Kobe's or 2 Kobe's. I think this is the only one for the inscriptions. So it's first year flawless. It's a gorgeous autograph. The holofoil on it's fantastic. You can't really see it in a scan. You have to have this in hand to be able to see the holofoil. And then right on the top right, you get this 1 of 1 number. But what I really love about it is that it's from that first year of flawless. And so it's an absolutely huge card. But I like this card more. And what's weird about that is they're both 2012s. Why would I like this card even more? Well, in 2012 Immaculate, in 2012 Immaculate, Panini did something that they didn't do in every other year, and it was really beloved at the time. Okay, so they came out with a set called All-Star Lineage. And for these cards, the serial number that your card got or your guy got was based on how many all-star teams they had made to that point. Now, obviously, the set does not include guys that were not able to autograph. For example, LeBron James is not in the set. Michael Jordan's obviously not in the set. But Kobe is in the set. And in 2012, he had 15 all-star games. And so this card is the number 3 of 15, which he signed. People love sets like this where the company has to take some extra measures to produce it. Obviously, not all the guys got 15 autographs, but Kobe's did. This card does not pop up very often, and I'm going to go check it out on Card Ladder. I'll bet we haven't seen one of these sell in a while. Let's see. Kobe All-Star Lineage 2012. We have 2 sells on this card ever. One was from 2014. One was from 2019. Let's try one more thing just to see. By the way, both those cells don't even teach us anything. We're just going to 2012 Immaculate. We're going to put in the number 15. See if that gets us any more. Okay, we get 10 things now. Are any of these helpful? It's none of those. Here's that 2014 sale. I believe that one was one we already had up. And then this one right here, Auto All-Star. So that's a new one, but still it's from 2013. Guys, I don't have any idea what this card's going to sell for. I don't have a clue. What I can tell you is it's a big deal that it's up at auction right now. There's certain cards that have more of an insert type feel to them. Sorry, there's certain autographs that have to them a more insert type feel. This is one of those cards. People who were collecting this time, they remember this set. It's obviously a playing days card. It's a serial number that is based on how many all-star games he had made at that point. I think he made a couple of more by when all was said and done. And so is it a big deal that this card's at auction? It is, and it's definitely one that's going to be worth watching this week. And then finally at Golden, did we have anything pop up? We didn't. We didn't have anything pop up. Man, I don't know why that happens sometimes. We just talk about this Mahomes real quick here. I want to point out about this one, something that we learned in the 25 and 25. This card was ranked so much higher by the community than it was by the experts. The experts all just went with Prism. But I think that there's a real love for the portrait here of Mahomes. Portrait cards did well on the iconic ranking. And I think it's because people vote for cards where they're like, hey, I love that I can see who that guy is. The Prism finished higher overall because of the expert voting, but just based on what the community said, this was actually the higher ranked card. So let's scroll down just real quick, see if there's anything else that we just have to hit. An MJ signed card from Upper Deck, MJ signed card from 1990 Skybox, and PSA 3 on the 52 Bowman mantle. That's a beautiful Tiger from 2012. So many good cards. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to show you guys. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. Remember I was telling you, so I'm going to go back for just a second, and then we're going to end this episode early. But I have to show you guys this. So remember on this, we were talking about the autograph, the mantle autograph, and I told you guys we would look at something at Fanatics. So if you come into Fanatics and you look, and we're in the Premier auction, remember? We're in the Premier auction, and if we just type in Michael Jordan 1986. So this is what's interesting to me. So this one right here, you can see there were 2 Jordan autographs that sold. One of them is this PSA 6 with 9 auto. The autograph's gold, sold for $117. And then there's this one that sold for $43,200. Now, $43,200 is obviously a lot of money. But when we look at this one, it's interesting because we know Jordan signed this while he was still an active player. It looks like the sort of card, like the sort of autograph, because the autograph's not like super high quality, right? It's not, he didn't take the most time on it in the world, right? It's not perfect. The M's super light. The ink comes in a little bit stronger here and then gets, weaker here toward the end, but it's not signed in exactly the right direction that you'd like it to be. It's not perfect in several different ways. Yet the thing that was really interesting was because of this label, and I did a reel on this on Instagram, because these labels were only used in 1999 and 2000, and because back then they didn't slab the cards, we know, although this was slabbed more recently, the autograph was originally authenticated by PSA, actually back when Michael Jordan was still an active player. Or I should say, before he went to the Washington Wizards, where then he ended his career. Yet, despite that, even though it's an earlier autograph on this card, and granted, it probably wasn't signed in like 1986. It's probably signed in the later 90s. I don't know exactly when. Maybe it was earlier in the 90s. I don't really know. What I do know is that as far as PSA goes, it's the autograph that they authenticated probably first. And even if it wasn't first, it was one of the very first. Yet this price seems to be more indicative of just like an autograph Jordan 1986 Fleer card, which is interesting to me because the baseball guys, I think, determined on this one, and not just baseball guys, but that 1948 set, like that Mikan one, I think that those collectors looked at them and they said, you know what? We're going to pay for the fact that this was an earlier autograph. And I get that this was not as early as like maybe like a 1980, 86 or 87 or whenever the card came out, but it is earlier. So I was surprised that it didn't sell for more. Guys, there's so many other things to hit, but it is a holiday week. I gave you guys 40 minutes. That's all I got this week. Hope you guys have a great week. If you haven't already subscribed, please do it. Every week I take you through the biggest auctions. Usually I take way more time to do that than I did this week. I take you through the biggest sales from last week. I love doing that with you. Go buy the book. I'll put it in the link. If you want it, go grab it. If you want a few, DM me. But guys, hope you guys have a great New Year's as well. And I will see you guys next week. Until next time, happy collecting.